who want an exposure to a market or an
Everything they need in one place.
Be the world's foremost authority on
Individuals, advisors and institutions. Hello and welcome to Morningstar. I'm Emma Wall, and here today to give me his 3 European stock tips is Ian Ormiston, manager of the Ignis European Smaller Companies Fund. Hello Ian.
Morning.
So what's your first European stock?
First one, Zumtobel, which is an Austrian manufacturer of lighting equipment and lighting luminaires, which is what actually controls the lights. The company I met last year as a result of investing in other lighting companies, Osram, which was a company that came out of Philips, basically just led me to look at the sector, and I got a chance to meet the management of Zumtobel in December. And what I discovered was just an absolutely incredible soar of value. New chief executive, and sometimes you meet management and it's pretty worthless. Sometimes you meet them and it's just incredible. Chief executive just gave us the most honest assessment of a business which had so much potential but so many problems, and largely outlined what will be a fairly major restructuring program which will come, and a refocusing really of the whole company to try and tease out its strengths. So a company which offers lots of value for the future, where the management actually are coming in with new actions, basically.
And you did mention there that they were honest about the problems they had to overcome. What are these, for example?
So this is a company that has basically been promising the future forever. But unfortunately, as you know, in lighting, one thing that's changed is we've gone from filament bulbs to LED and low voltage. The company's had to go through that whole transition, which is expensive. You have factories which are set up for one thing. You need to invest and move and make sure you stay ahead. So that's been one of the problems they've had. They've also had acquisitions in the past, and they've never really integrated them. So the CEO has got two major areas where he can save costs in their manufacturing plant, and also he can make their pretty badly organised sales efforts and marketing efforts, he can actually put them together and save money and be more effective.
This will be a long-term hold?
Well, hopefully it will turn into a good long-term investment. But for me, I need short-term catalysts. So having met the CEO, it was clear that with the full year results, he will stand up and he will make a very costed plan. So that would be the first catalyst. For me, the share price has already performed quite well. It's up 45% in the last 6 weeks or so. So it asks questions on valuation, but hopefully we'll see more opportunity to hold it for a longer period.
What's your second stock?
Second stock is Smurfit Kappa, which is an Irish packaging group. Quite a different story. One thing it does share in common is that it's about restructuring. It's performed very well, and actually it was a company that wouldn't have been on my radar in the early parts of its good performance because it's a very highly levered company. It struggled in the financial crisis. It entered the financial crisis with too much debt because their strategy had been to take over lots of other mills around the world, take out cost, take out competition. But post-crisis, what they've done is they've restructured their finances very well, which is something which we find very important. They've carried on the good process of taking out bad price competition in the industry, instilling discipline. And actually for me, this is always quite a good theme, where it's an industry which is quite capital intensive, where there have been certain, usually privately owned players who've damaged pricing, and where the dominant players can become more dominant, increase their market share, and then instill price discipline. And that's the phase we're in with Smurfit now. So we see rising prices, rising market share, and because they've sorted out their finances, rising distribution of dividends.
You mentioned there that they had expanded globally. Does this mean that they're sensitive to what's going on in emerging markets at the moment, or are they very European-centric? No,
they are incredibly global. So fortunately, because each individual emerging market in this industry is generally not that big, it's not a massive issue, but they do have exposure to both to Venezuela and to Argentina. So devaluations, repatriation of cash are an issue and are a risk. But for this group, packaging is still generally quite a big Western European, developed world kind of industry. So the majority of the business is in the developed world.
And what's your third stock?
Third stock is CTS Eventim, which is a German ticketing company. Again, this is an evolutionary story. Interestingly, it's still 50% owned by its founder, who back when he started the company, no one really saw that ticketing was going to be a big business. It's a big business, obviously, in the US. We're all familiar with Ticketmaster. But he came from his German roots, dominated Germany. And back in the day when it was traditional tickets at box offices, paper tickets, what's amazing with Eventim is that they saw the technology revolution coming very quickly. And for them, it's helped them actually dominate or increase their dominant position in terms of the market, but it's also increased their margins and their ability to save cost. They don't have to print tickets anymore. We have to print tickets at home. It's very much easier for them to reach us in our sitting room when we want to book tickets. And it's also, the brand gets stronger. As we know on the internet, the dominant brands are the ones that will continue to win.
Is it a very competitive market? You did mention Ticketmaster there. When you have such a global dominant player in an industry, I mean, what hope is there for sort of market penetration?
Well, the interesting one is you basically need to be one or two in an industry, in a country or territory. And if you're not there, then you basically just don't, you shouldn't really bother. And interestingly, Eventim have had excursions into Ticketmaster territory, Ticketmaster similarly into Eventim, and usually it doesn't work. You don't end up with the right venues, you just don't end up with the inventory, and what you need the big names to be on your website, the right venues. So they're very, very dominant in Europe. That will remain the case. They'll never be the big global play. They might have regional exposures in big territories like the US, but Ticketmaster will forever be the big player there. Eventim will probably always be the big player in Europe.
Ian, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
This is Emma Wall for Morningstar. Thank you for watching.